Who was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, more commonly known today as Mozart? Anyways, let's get started. Mozart has been one of the most influential people in the whole wide world. And that's all I'm going to say before I pretty much say a spoiler. I may have made a video on Mozart with this book, based on this book, like a few years ago maybe. If I did, I don't remember it. Tell me in the comments below if I did, but if there is one, this will be an updated version of that. I mean, the book isn't updated, I'm still using the same book, but I'm doing it in a better way, I guess. Let's get started, and you might have noticed that I've been saying let's instead of let's. I'll explain why at the end of this video. So Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born on January 27th of 1756, 5 years after his sister Narnel was born. Not Narnia, Narnel. Yeah, not Nannerl. Search it up yourselves. And continuing on, his ears at music started 3 years after he was born. I mean, everyone starts their music careers by listening to music or just playing it for themselves. Like, I don't know what music is, so I don't know what this is. Let's bang it up. Pretty much that was how I was introduced to music in an alternate dimension. But right now, that wasn't how I was introduced there at all. However, Mozart listened to his dad and sister doing all that music and practicing. Yeah, I just made that tune up. And when he heard after the lessons, he always went up there on a chair because he was so small and started playing 2 notes at once. Maybe like this, or maybe he just used his standard finger way, but he always knew which notes sounded right together and others sounded correct. Others didn't sound correct. If they were correct, or as in Mozart's ears, just right, then he would be like, yay! But if it was like a bad note, like cling, that was a bad note for Mozart. With two notes that sounded bad, he would like make his ears hurt and like wham. I mean literally wham. Very crying. I'm still surprised he did do that. I mean, he's a musician. All musicians literally go through this phase, but I'm still surprised he cried at it. He was pretty sensitive in this part, I guess you could say. Anyway, in 1759, Mozart learned how to play the clavier at the age of 3, and a year later, in 1760, Mozart/Wolfie wrote his very first melodies. His dad at first thought it was like nonsense, but then when you look closer, it was a complicated version of a piece that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart himself created. And it was really hard for his dad to understand what any of it was, and still was like, this guy is a toddler. He like writes music in a way that's no one else can really understand except him. And so I just nicknamed him the boy who could write music before he can even write letters. Sounds like the boy who lives with Harry Potter, but that's not the point. In our next part of this video, which will happen in a few seconds, I would like to brief you on what has happened right now. He just learned on a clavier, and he might even be able to teach himself an instrument. So let's just see how it works. In 1762, Wolfie taught himself how to play the violin, and in the same year, the court of Austria learned about all of Wolfie and his sister Nannerl's parents and asked them a royal invitation. Please read this royal invitation, and they found out that they were invited to perform for the Empress Maria Theresa. One moment, please.
Sarasa.
Yes, thank you, Robot Me. And that's about how it seemed to work out. sorry I paused the video there, but it was just a bit of an emergency. For right now, Wolfgang and his Mozart showed his talents and impressed the queen. And asked the princess to marry him when she was literally engaged to the King of France. I have already made a video on her. Her name is Marie Antoinette. Sounds familiar? Well, it should be if you're French and Austrian. In 1763, these two siblings go on a tour through Europe, and they land in the top countries: Germany, Belgium, France, and England. And in England, however, their dad became sick, and that's where the Mozart made his first ever symphony. He could somehow listen to all that music in his head, and it just like struck him like a lightning bolt. And let's fast forward all these years. It was named the Symphony in E flat. And 3 years later, he wrote his first opera. It was very unsuccessful. And it was like, kid, I will not listen to a kid. I quit. Yeah, I quit. And the producer's like, yeah, I will not listen to you too. And also we have too many quitters. I quit. You will not get your money. Not even a fraction. Bye-bye. Push away. And this was... He did write several more operas later in his life, which were more successful. But this one was very devastating. We don't really know what that opera was, so we'll probably never find out. In 1777, when Mozart was 21 years old, he fell in love with Aloysia Weber. Sounds like something from Spider-Man. If Aloysia was empty, that is. Well, more into that. It's something of how I would love to talk about. But Aloysia Weber eventually didn't have a sing for him because Mozart's dad was like, no, you must not marry. Yeah, something like that. And then he just fell in love with Aloysia's sister, Constance, and they married against his father's wishes. His father died after he wrote an opera. Was it a symphony? And it was pretty much both. And the Mozart composed the Don Giovanni in 1787, and that's when his dad died. In his final year of his life of 1791, he finally finished his opera called The Magic Flute, and this Magic Flute is basically all he's got. And in the same year, he got his second son. And a mysterious stranger came to his house and said, "Read this letter!" And it looked like a burglar. Read it. And do what it says. And it goes away. Mozart was like, "It says I need to make a requiem." Right? What is a requiem? A requiem is a piece of music that is mainly created for funerals. He felt like it was he was making his own requiem, and he was never able to finish it. He died on December 5th of 1971 before he could finish it. On his funeral, though, the requiem wasn't played at all, and no one really knows what that requiem was for, and no one will know who that mysterious guy is. Well, today we still listen to that requiem, and people say that the parts that were completed in the requiem were the best pieces of music that Mozart has ever written. In his life, Mozart had written more than 600 pieces of music, which included 41 symphonies, 27 piano concertos, 5 violin concertos, 27 concert ICSs, 23 string quartets, and 18 masses, and 22 operas. That's a lot. And more than 600 pieces, and since a baby, that's still a lot. And even if we don't see Mozart every day, except probably his painting, we still listen to his music. From toddler music, all the way to piano music, violin music, to this guy's music. So I hope to see you guys in the next episode. See you then!